Welcome to part 6 of making a hydraulic forging press. On this video I'll be making the tool holder for the forging press. Also make some racking to keep the tool dies in, just to keep it a bit more organised. And also a cover for the stop start switch just to keep it protected. So yeah, basically just showing the processes of that. And a bit of explanation throughout the video as well. Right then, I'll carry on with the filming. Right, so here all I'm doing is cutting some angle iron, which I bought, which was 30/30 by 5mm thickness. And I decided to use this to hold the tooling in place on the press. So I've marked it out and I'm just trimming one side down to 15mm, just so it doesn't take up too much space, obviously with the dies slotting inside it. And then once I've done that, obviously I moved on to the bandsaw to cut it into smaller sections, which you'll see in a minute. Okay, so here I've got the angle iron and the bandsaw, and I'm just cutting it to lengths of 100mm. And these are going to be stuck either side of the press, obviously top and bottom. And they're like guide rails for the tooling just to slide in and out of. So yeah, pretty much just self-explanatory. You can see what's going on. Okay, so here I'm just on the mill, and I'm just taking a passing cut on the angle line that I've just cut previously on the bandsaw. Now I'm just trimming them down to 15mm exact. Obviously cut them with the grinder. And with the thickness of the angle line already being 5mm, that just leaves 10mm overlapping the tool holders, or to act as obviously the tool holder. So it'll be a 10mm overlap on the tool once it's in the press. So all this does is make sure it's even on both sides and just looks a bit neater and chews it up. Okay, I'll carry on with the video. Just thought I'd best mention that knocking sound on the mill is just the motor pulley. Obviously at the back there's a tiniest bit of play in it. At some point I do intend to do a restoration video on this mill, but for the time being, obviously I've got other projects in hand that I want to get on top of. So yeah, I mean that's something for the future anyway. Okay, here's the guard I've made for the electric switch. It's just a piece of day bar that I've put a 90 bend on, soften the edges. All I'm about to do is just shim that out with a piece of cardboard here, just flush with the top. From the side, I'll get that tacked on. And obviously once it's tacked, make sure it's all nice and solid, remove the switch and fully weld it up. I'll stick that on now. Okay, so here's how I'm going to do the tooling. Decided this was just 30 by 30 angle, 5mm wall. So I've cut down the grinder and then milled the face of these to make them all even. So obviously it doesn't take up as much tooling face, depending on what size tooling that I want to use. And then I've cut a load of these blanks from what I used to make the frame, the 15mm B100 flat bar. 10 of those in total, so I've got 5 pairs of tooling. That's what it would be like, obviously, inside the press, top and bottom. If it focuses. There we are. I'll do a bump stop at the back using a piece of like 10x10 flat bar. And then some sort of spring clasp on the front here. Possibly on this side off this, where it flicks round. So as you push them in, it locks in. And then you just push the lever to get them out again. Obviously there's that bracket I was telling you about, which is tacked on. And these, I made a ruck of angle iron. I didn't have any angle iron at the time, so I decided just to cut some on the guillotine at work, some 3mm sheet that I had, and press my own. And the idea is, for all the tooling, will be kept on this front end of the stand. And I'll have that like this. If you can imagine, side by side. On a slight angle. Where when I need them, obviously it's just a quick grab them, pull them out, and they all go back together, so it's all nice and neat, obviously, when not in use. Right, so I'm going to start putting the tooling holders together now on the press. So I'll film that for you guys to see. Right, I'm just jigging up the tooling now, and just to make sure I've got enough clearance. Obviously I don't want to tack it as it is, and then it'll be under friction when I need to change the tool, and I want it to be quite a low tolerance fit, or high tolerance. But also, obviously, there's not a lot of slop in there for it moving around. So I've just shimmed it by wrapping the tool in a piece of paper, this printer paper, and clamped it up. So then obviously once I remove that, you'll have the, whatever it is, 3 thou or so clearance either side. And I've shimmed the back of it, like I said, with a piece of flat 10x10 square section there, solid bar. So I'm just going to get this tacked up, and then I'll do the same for the top as well. have done the job. So these are trimming down to exactly 100. Take that edge off. So here all I'm doing is milling one side of the plate which I'm going to be using for the dies on the press. Obviously you saw in that video just before I used the printer paper to act as a shim. Well, obviously if you turn them 90 degrees I need them now exactly the same measurement. So all I'm doing here is just milling that and making sure that they're obviously even both sides and they fit in the press nice and uniformed and easily to obviously remove, and there's not a lot of play in there, so they're not moving about when you're pressing material. Okay, we've got the bracket welded on now. Got a few runs. Just keep that protected. And now the tooling's all been sorted out, like on the previous video where I was milling them. So now these are even spaced. So obviously you can rotate them depending on the size of your stock or what it is you want to do. And then what I'm working on now is a racking system to fit underneath the press for the tooling. So there's something along these lines. So that'll be like the back support. I'll have them in columns underneath the press. There'll be 5. I might make a few extra ones just for future tooling that I might make. But yeah, I'm going to set up the saw now and cut my lengths and start welding these together. Right, so this is a sort of idea I've come up with for holding the tool in. So these obviously will slide in and out. And the back piece is act as the backstop. I'm going to weld these in rows, obviously, just as they are. And I think I'll probably put, just to be extra fancy, a small door, maybe a couple of little doors, weld on hinges, just to keep it all sort of clean and all locked away. And I'll put obviously sides to keep it all flush. I think I'll keep the tank exposed though, because obviously if I ever need to get to it, it makes it easier. Right, I'm going to set the camera up now and start putting these together. Like a little production line going. Right then, see you in a bit. Okay, these are all tacked up now. I need minimal welds because obviously there's not a lot of weight bearing on them. First one in place, just held it in by we're using magnets. Just put a slight tilt on the back of them, obviously, and slight decline, just so it keeps them in place when you're wheeling it around. They don't work their way out. So get this one tacked in place, and then work my way down, and then get them all fully welded. Right, I'll cut to a better camera angle now, obviously where you can see me welding them in. So what I'll do here is I'll just do a decent tack on the top corners. That way I can hinge them and set them all roughly to the same degree. I'll just do it by eye from the side once they're all tacked in place. And then obviously fully weld them up. If you don't do a good enough tack, obviously, once you start moving, they'll crack off, which will be a bit of a bugger. So now I've got the top one in. And all I've done, you'll find most of the time whenever you're making anything, you just go off if it looks true. And by that, if you were, say you're doing something vertical, hold it against, say, a doorway or something, you can see if it's level. A lot of the time when I'm making something in work, that's how I tend to make things. You know, if it doesn't quite look right, chances are it probably isn't. Obviously go off your measurements and everything, but okay. Ideally, it would have been better to do it the other way around in hindsight. I could have stacked, say, 3 on top and then propped them on. Which shouldn't be too bad. Probably get away with it doing it this way. Maybe not. So, distance are we there? Mark these out. I know it's not perfect, I should really be using a scribe, but too. Looks that and stick. 17. Beautiful. Okay, last 20. Let them have it. Keep going. Loads. Yes, go too far. Just touch the wall. Come on. We are once. Maybe. Everybody get you. That's out. Going. Male, female, top and bottom, whichever you want to say. I'll bring you close so you can see properly. That's a bit cooler, isn't it? The side. I'm happy with that. I'll get a bit more of the steer bar, off cut maybe 2. Just to keep all the scale out when I'm working on it. Right, I'll get the angle finder now on the back side of them, get them all set to the same, and weld them up. Right guys, just gone around the this side of the racking. I've set my angle finder to 80 degrees. And obviously I've gone along just from one to the other and set them all to the same angle. Just so it looks pleasing to the eye, obviously, once you start looking at it from a distance. Right, what I'm going to do now is set the camera up over here. I obviously just fully weld these up. And then that's that job done, I guess. What else is there left to do? Make the mod for the foot pedal. So you can actually put your boot in it and work it without having to move it up and down. And what else? Obviously make the tool in itself. They all fit now, obviously, so I need to do a hot punch, a fuller, a flattened die. And then after that, I guess it's just to use it for a couple of projects and see if there's anything I want to change. And if not, then take it all apart, paint it up, and then I guess it's done. Right, I'll set the camera up over here for you. Yes, I know this downhill welding is obviously frowned upon. This isn't structural though. This is purely just to hold it in place. Like I said, there's not an awful lot of weight to these. I haven't been anything much weight bearing yet. I always recommend uphill welding. But for this, it's perfectly fine. Oh yeah, some snips. Like that. You guys see there? Bring it a bit closer. That's a bit better. I hope that's in focus. Soon find out, I guess. These hobby welders are good. The only trouble they have is it's a single roller on the power feed. It tends to jar up if you have too many kinks in them. Like any kinks at all. I have a really nice flowing torch. Other than that, as long as you do that, it tends to be quite compliant. Okay, so here we are. Here's the obviously the tooling. Got to make the individual profiles for these. Like a hot punch full of flat. So these obviously go stored on there. And then when in use. To make things a bit more organised. Keep everything sort of together in pairs when you want to work with it. Make it all a bit quicker as well. Yeah, pretty chuffed with that so far. So last couple of jobs, obviously do the pins. Might do them tomorrow. Cut them down, drill and tap them. And the footrest. And then I'm going to put two sides on either side of these just to cover them. Where they are here, I'll probably come to about there. This deer bar. And some little doors on the front, which I may cut in works to be a bit easier with the guillotine. Get some weld on hinges. Yeah. So, other than that, pretty chuffed.